Hello students, as you all know that we are focusing or we are studying the paper that is called as Fundamental Principle of Social Research. Until now we have already completed 2 units. Now today we are going to focus on the third unit, and the name of this unit is Types and Methods in Social Research, and in that we will going to focus the first point, which is the name of this unit is Types of Research. So students, let's see the objective of this particular topic. The objective is to identify and understand the different types of research, and the learning outcome is the students are able to classify and differentiate the major types of research based on their purpose and approach. So now we will going to see the research as we have already discussed in first chapter and second chapter. But again here we will going to just revise that research is nothing but as finding an answer to the question in a systematic or scientific way. So we can say that research usually begins with questions such as what is happening, why is it happening, how is it happening. For example, I'll give an example to make it more clear. The teacher may ask, for example, a teacher notices that many students are absent from college. So the teacher may ask, why are students absent so often? To answer this properly, the teacher will collect the information, will study it properly and reaches a conclusion. That is a research. So this here we are going to have today we are going to see a number of types of research which are going to give you or which will going to help you to choose which type of question and purpose of your question will meet or will be suitable to for your study. Now first we will going to see the pure or basic research and applied research. Now this one of the very easiest difference to remember, that pure or the basic research mean that research done mainly to increase knowledge without an immediate practical use. To understand it more easily, clearly, I'll give you an example. A scientist studies how people form memories. Simply to understand memory better, the main question is, how does human memory work? The researcher may not have an immediate practical solution in it. Then we are having a next applied research. So what is mean by applied research? The research done to solve a real life practical problem is called as a applied research. Now I'll give an example to clear or to understand it more easily. Suppose a college wants to reduce students absenteeism. So the college may do the study, and here researcher study is what are the main reason the students are absent. Then the college uses the findings to improve the answer. So it is called as applied research, that we are applying, like finding out the conclusion, and then we are applying the findings to improve or to bring the change in the uh, problem. So easy to understand. What is mean by pure? Pure is equals to knowledge, or applied means equals to problem solving. So research, this pure research as increased knowledge and developing theories, while applied research focuses on practical problems and immediate solutions. Now, second type of research is action research. So it combines research with action to solve the real life problem. Okay, so here to understand it more easily, now I'll give an example. So now imagine you are a teacher and you notices many students are struggling to participate in class. So instead of only studying the problem, you take action to improve it. For example, identify the problem, that is students don't participate in any of the activity. After identification of the problem, what you will do, introduce a group discussion. And third, observe whether the participation is improving or not. Modify the teaching method if necessary, and continue this thing until unless you will not going to or you are not able to change the situation. So this is called an action research. So formula to remember is action research is that research uh, and do the action, and with the help of action you need to improve, or you wanted to bring the improvement in the situation. So this slide is explains that action research combines research with action to solve real life problems and improve an existing situation. Now let's see the types of social action. Now here are COVAR categorized action research into the 5 types. The first is called as the classical design. So this research and action are separated and independent. The connection between the research and the action is not purposely sought. It may occur by chance. So here trying to explain that research and action are completely separate. Researchers do their research while people responsible for action do their work. So they do not deliberately work together. Now, the research might influence action by chance, but there is no planned connection between these two. For example, I'll give an example like university researchers studies while students are dropping out of school. At the same time, the government is running an education program. The government later happens to see the research and uses some of its findings. So research action are independent. I hope you understood. Now, the second is interdependence of action and research. Uh, in simple meaning here, action and research are connected to one another, but they are still done by different organization or people. One organization carry out the program while another research organization is studying what is happening. Now, I'll give an example to make it more clear. For example, suppose the government starts a program to improve rural healthcare. Now, government runs the program, that is action, and university researchers study whether this program is successful or not with the help of their research. So researchers are not running the program themselves, they are simplifying just studying it. Okay, so work they work in connection, but research and action are handled by two different groups. So here we can keep in mind that like government here is playing an role of action, and the university research or research students who is studying that action, that how that action is fruitful. Now the third one is evaluation research built into action program. Now simple meaning in this type, research is included as a part of the action program itself. The people running the program decide what the researcher should study and what areas need to be evaluation. For example, the government starts a program to provide free school meal. Okay, so a part of this same program, researcher asked to find out few questions like, are children attending school more regularly? Because of that the government is providing the free and provide free school means, are students performing better as, or is the program reaching the intended student? Here the action program decide the scope of the research. So research is built into the program and the action people decide what should be researched. Now the fourth one is talking about the action research. So what is mean by the action research? Here researchers themselves become involved in the action. They don't just sit outside and study what others are doing. They also participate in planned activities or policy which is initiated. So I'll give you an example here, like researcher studying a new method of teaching. Okay, so instead of only observing a teachers, the researcher join the education project, work with the teachers and help implement the new teaching method and collect the information about the results. So the researcher are both playing a role over here as a researcher as well as a participant in the action. So research and action are closely joined together. Now the last, that is fifth type of social research, which is called as descriptive as well as analytical research. Now to continue with this, I have a more explanation in my next slide. Just move to the next slide. Now let's understand the descriptive and analytical research. Descriptive research means, the word descriptive comes from the word describe. So descriptive research asks what is happening. Now we have to describe this question, what is happening. So descriptive in this, it describes a situation without trying to control it. Okay, for example, suppose we want to study drug abuse among college students, so we might collect the information about the same. So we may ask how many students are affected, what types of substances are involved, what are the reported causes, where do students obtain them, what effects are reported. So the researcher mainly described what exists. So descriptive means, a descriptive research describes social events, social institution or situation, communities, and commonly uses surveys to collect the information about the same. Now we are having in opposition to the descriptive, the analytical research. Now analytical research goes one step further than the description. It asks, what, what do these facts mean? Suppose a survey tells us students who work part-time have lower attendance. So, analytical research would examine the information and look for pattern and relationship. It might ask, is working part-time actually related to lower student attendance? What other factors could explain this? So remember, descriptive research asks what type of question, and analytical type of research asks why and how do that facts relate to it. So this slide is giving you an explanation about the analytical and descriptive research. Analytical research critically examines existing information, connects data with relevant variables, identifies a pattern, and develops a conclusion. Now we are having the next type of research is empirical research versus exploratory research. Now, what is empirical research? Empirical research means the research which is based on actual observation and evidences. So instead of just saying, I think this is true, the researcher says, I collected the evidence and observed it, and I am 110% sure about the same. So to give you a more idea about the same, I have an example for you to make it clear. So like you want to know whether the students who study with the timetable perform better. You collect the actual data from students, observe their study habits and compare the result, that is empirical. Okay, so what is empirical research? The empirical research is mainly based on observation, experiences, and real data, and its conclusion can be checked through further observation or experiments. Then we are having uh, the exploratory research. So, to explain this, imagine you are teacher and says, study a social problem that we don't understand very well. You don't know much about the problem yet, so you first explore it. That is called as exploratory research. Example, suppose researcher want to understand what problems do students face when using online education. For this, they may conduct interviews, conversation to discover the different problems of the students. The purpose is to understand the issue and develop possible hypotheses, question for further research. So, what is mean by exploratory? In simple meaning, to understand the exploratory, it means to explore an unfamiliar problems in your research. Okay, so exploratory research is useful when the researcher has little or no knowledge about the problem and helps to explore the problems and develop hypotheses. I hope you understood this also. Now let's continue with the other type. Now we are having the another type of research is qualitative research and quantitative research. Now let's see first is quantitative research. So quantitative equals to quantity, it means numbers. So this type of research deals mainly with numbers and measurement. For example, researcher asks 500 students, what, how many hours do you study every day? So answer, you may or you might be get that maybe 1 hour. The 100 students are studying 1 hour, like 200 students or 130 students are studying for 2 hours, 150 students are studying for 3 hours, and vice versa. So now we can calculate this into the percentage, and we can also remove the average and comparison. So when we are able to calculate, when we are able to remove the average percentage, it means that study is called as a quantitative research. So quantitative research always uh, give the data into the numbers. So quantitative research uses measurement, surveys, experiments, sampling as statistical method for its analysis. Then we are having a qualitative research. Now imagine, instead of just asking how many hours do you study, Now in the quantitative, we have got the data into the in numbers. Okay, now we are taking the same question here also to study or to study this from the qualitative point of view. Now same question we are repeating here, that how many hours do you study? So we ask, tell me about your experiences of study. Yes, as you are studying 2 hours, 3 hours. Now we want your experience as you are studying. So the researcher wants to understand people's feelings, their experiences, their reasons, and behavior. So here, this detailed study will come into the qualitative research. So I'll give you an example for the same, that uh, a researcher interviews 20 students and asks, what makes study difficult for you? So students might talk about stress, they maybe give you example, or they maybe give you the reason of family responsibility, distraction, motivation, etc., etc., and etc. So the researcher studies the meaning and experiences behind their answers. So quality qualitative equals to quality, and quality means that you are getting the meaning or the experiences of the people through the qualitative research. So qualitative research focuses on quality, meaning, human behavior, and commonly uses interviews and other methods such as word association or story completion. Now the next one we are having explanatory research or the longitudinal research. Now what is mean by explanatory research? Now this type of uh, why is something is happening. Okay, so it tries to understand cause and effect relationship. Okay, so why, I'll give an example to understand it, that why does family breakdown contribute to juvenile delinquency? Okay, here the researcher is not simply asking whether juvenile delinquency exists or not. Okay, they are investigating whether there is a relationship between family background and juvenile delinquency. Okay, so explanatory research is always asking why. Okay, how? So it describes it as research that explains causes and examines the relationship between the variables. Then we are having a longitudinal study. So longitudinal means that study can uh, go over a long period of time. Okay, so that is called as longitudinal study. So imagine we want to study the same group of people for several years, like how changes are taking place in that group, and the people, those who are the part of that group, what kind of the behavioral changes and all such things you can study over a period of time. So it may take a long time to study, so therefore this study is called as a longitudinal study. So I'll give an example to study it, make it more clear. Like, we study the same group of students into 2026, 2028, and 2030. We can see how the things change over a period of time. Okay, so this is will give you an example of studying the prevalence of AIDS in India and at different points in time. Okay, so what is longitudinal study? Longitudinal study is equals to long time which you are taking to study something. Now next we are having experimental and evaluative research. Experimental research studies cause and effects. The researcher changes or controls something and observes what happens. For example, suppose we want to know, does a new teaching method improves state test performance? So we could have that a group A normal teaching, group B will be of new teaching method. Now we will going to compare the result between the group A and the group B, as group A is doing a normal teaching and group B is doing a new teaching method. So we can compare the both of them to study. So the researcher controls manipulates a variable to see its effects. Okay, so experimental research as studying cause and effect relationship by controlling or manipulating the variables. Then what is evaluative research? The word evaluate means judge or assess how successful something is. For example, suppose the government start a program to improve school attendance. Okay, so after 1 year, researchers ask, did the program actually work? They check where were attendance rates improved, were the objectives achieved, what worked well, what did not work, what should be improved. So that is evaluative research. This research assesses the effectiveness of a program, policy, or activity and check whether its objectives are achieved or not. So I hope you have understood this, the types of study. So it now it becomes a clear with you all, like for example in future if you're planning to go for doing any research, so this ppt will help you to make it very much clear with you that which method you can choose for your research according to your topic. So I'll stop here. Thank you so much. We'll continue our next topic in our next presentation. Thank you.